Welcome into On the Mic with Kellen Forrest, a college basketball podcast powered by the Garage Door Sports Network, the only college basketball podcast where the host thinks that Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions should get an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament strictly because of their name. I'm, of course, Kellen Forrest. I'm very happy to be starting this show. It's been a dream of mine for years now to start a college basketball show. We'll have some fun, hopefully, inform you a little bit about the wacky season that is the 2020-2021 college basketball season, and hopefully increase your hate for Duke basketball. Not that a lot of people probably need that. I'm sure you're wondering, why should I be listening to this guy in a dark room with a bad haircut talk about college basketball? And the bad haircut, yes, I'm working on that, but we're in a lockdown trying to do my part. Wear your mask, stay inside, everybody, so we can have a normal sports season the next year. But if you're actually wondering about college basketball, I've had my heart ripped out watching my college basketball team lose in the NCAA tournament, lose heartbreaking losses more than anyone I know. So if that doesn't qualify me, I don't know what else to say to you. But if you're looking for more, I played basketball at a very high level growing up. I've coached, I've even refed, which not a lot of people can say, and I understandably so, who wants to ref basketball. And I watched college basketball, my favorite sport. I am college basketball over the NBA. If I had to choose to watch a random game, I know that's probably a contradictory opinion for a lot of people, but that's me. And that doesn't convince you why you should listen to me about this sport. I don't know what else it is. So this will be a quick podcast every week. We're basically going to do two segments: the Forest 5, where I'm going to give you the biggest storylines of college basketball each week. This week, instead, we're going to do the biggest stories for the season, just because obviously this is our first episode. I want to get everyone caught up on the biggest stories this season. And then following, we'll do week by week basis at the top, the Forest 5. So we'll get right into it with the first storyline.
Run, Forrest, run! Run, Forrest!
The first storyline this year is, it might honestly be Gonzaga versus the field in college basketball. Gonzaga might be the most dominant team in college basketball since the 2014-15 Kentucky team, who went a perfect 31-0 in the regular season until losing to Wisconsin in the Final Four. But this Gonzaga team, they've been just as, if not more, dominant through their first 10 games. Per the Elias Sports Network, they are the first team since 1993-94 Arkansas to score at least 85 points in their first 10 games. They have both returning stars in sophomore Drew Timme and senior Corey Kispert, and a potential freshman lottery pick in Jalen Suggs. If you guys haven't seen his slow motion bounce pass that was viral over Twitter over the past week, go check it out. That shows you enough what you need to know about Jalen Suggs. So Gonzaga is an absolute wagon this year. I don't know if anybody can beat them. The only team that might be up there with them in terms of national title contenders is the Baylor Bears. If we look at the Ken Palm rankings, which is something a lot of college basketball fans use, the committee uses it to select the tournament. It's what I use for most of my stats. We look at the Ken Palm adjusted efficiency rankings, Gonzaga's number one with plus 31.48. Baylor's not far behind at 30.62. The next closest team is Villanova at 26.9. So almost a 4-point gap. So you can see just how far these two teams are out ahead. Baylor is led by their junior point guard, Jared Butler. So they're going to be in every game this season. Even if they play the Zags, these two teams were supposed to play earlier on the season. We got canceled for COVID, but we should hopefully, if all things go to plan, I would predict a matchup between these teams in, say, mid-April in the national championship, and I would be more than happy to watch that basketball game. So Baylor, Gonzaga, two favorites this year. Now, if you're looking for more of the traditional powerhouses, if you're a person that always picks Kentucky, you pick Kansas, you pick North Carolina to win your bracket, might be a difficult year for you, because let's just take a quick look at the traditional powerhouses in college basketball. Kansas, they're good. They did just get beat by 25 by a Texas team, but they're still solid. They'll be right in the mix. But if we look at the other teams, we got Kentucky, who started 1-6 for the first time since 1911, over 100 years ago. They're 2-6 now. Their last win came, they squeaked one out against Mississippi State in double OT. So Kentucky, one of the worst teams they've had in ever, pretty much. Duke is 3-2. They're the highest ranked in the AP poll at 21. But honestly, they canceled the rest of their non-conference schedule, and if they had played all those games, I don't think they'd be ranked because this Duke team is not good. They're 3-2. We'll see how they go once they start playing this week again. North Carolina, 5-4, 0-2 in the ACC. Michigan State, 6-3, and 0-3 in the Big Ten. So not these traditional powerhouses struggling this year. Duke is the highest ranked out of these teams at 21. I don't know the last time at this point in the season, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, Michigan State have all been outside the top 20 of the AP poll. I don't know if it's ever happened. Moving on to the National Player of the Year race. Everybody loves to talk about the National Player of the Year race, but this year there were a few things that were guaranteed to happen in the sporting world. Anthony Lynn was going to mess up the clock management for the Los Angeles Chargers. There was going to be some unnecessary drama in the NBA. This season, the early front runner is going to be the Real House Husbands of Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley's dads tweeting back at each other. Marvin Bagley's dad wants him to trade him. That's a whole other issue if you want to get into it. But there was going to be some unnecessary drama, and that's the lead front runner right now. And 3, Luka Garza was going to win National Player of the Year. He was the favorite. And at this point in the season, it's not even really that close of a race. He's so far out in front of the Ken Palm National Player of the Year rankings. He's averaging 27.5 points per game and 9.1 rebounds per game. Not bad for the front runner of National Player of the Year, if I do say so myself. So Luka Garza from Iowa, probably going to be your National Player of the Year. We'll see what Iowa can do in the tournament, but with him, they're always going to have a chance. The problem is they can't play defense. Moving on to finally COVID. I know I tried to avoid it as long as we could, but obviously with the sporting landscape the way it is, every league's got to talk about COVID, and college basketball has felt the impacts of COVID. There's no doubt about it. They've had a number of marquee games canceled because of it. Gonzaga, Baylor being one of them that I mentioned earlier. Baylor, Texas was postponed. They're going to have more problems in the future. Some big games are going to get canceled. But the NCAA just announced this week that the NCAA tournament will be played at 6 sites in Indiana. So we're going to have what they call, it's not a bubble, but it's called a controlled environment, whatever the hell that means. I'm not as sure as you, but I am hopeful. We're going to be a positive college basketball podcast. We're going to believe that there's going to be a tournament, because I can't do it again. Last year when I got the notification that the NCAA tournament had been canceled, I wanted to crawl up into a hole and die. I can't go through it again. So we're going to be positive. We're going to have it. We're going to have March Madness. You're going to be able to fill your bracket. It just might look a little different. Finally, the best 2 conferences this year are the Big Ten and the Big 12. The Big Ten has 5 teams in the top 15 of the AP poll. The Big 12 has 4. These two, so they have 9 of the top 15 between these 2 conferences. Obviously, Baylor is the front runner from the Big 12, but Texas, led by Shaka Smart, who not only has Texas back. I know a lot of people wish they would be back in football, but Texas is back in basketball, and Shaka's hair is also back. So maybe that was the key, because coming into the season, Shaka was on the hot seat a bit. He hadn't been doing well in his tenure with Texas. So this is a big season for him. He's ranked number 4. They just had a huge win against Kansas, 25 points in Allen Fieldhouse in Kansas. So we'll see what Shaka Smart can do. For the casual college basketball fan, you may remember him from those VCU teams that would make runs in the tournament. He was bald then. He's got hair. He might look a little different, but he's still the same coach. We'll see what he can do with Texas team. Then obviously in the Big Ten, you got Iowa. You got Wisconsin is a very good team defensively, especially. Illinois, led by Io DeSumo. He's been an awesome freshman, probably one of the front runners for freshman of the year, along with Jalen Suggs. So those two conferences will be very fun to see play out down the season. We'll see who comes out on top. And lastly, bonus number 6, there's a war on charges in college basketball this year, led by Titus and Tate, who is a college basketball podcast that if you don't like my face, they will do the trick. They're a great podcast, one of my favorite to listen to. But Mark Titus has started a war on charges, and I'm all on board. As someone who took a lot of charges in his basketball career, because I couldn't jump, so I couldn't block shots, so I figured might as well take the charges. I have a real problem with how the way charges are being called this year. Guys will just stand there, grab their crotch, fall over, get bailed out. It's gotten too far. We need to stop teaching people just to fall down and get bailed out. If you're not going to make the play, let the guy score. No one's complained about too much scoring. Should still be offensive fouls. Don't get me wrong, but the charge it's too much these days. And if you've watched any college basketball, I'm sure you'll agree with me. So that's the Forest 5 plus a little bonus war on charges. Now we'll get straight into some game picks. And for you degenerates out there, I will be picking against the lines. And because I'm doing this podcast on Tuesday, Wednesdays, sometimes the lines won't be out for the later weekend games. So I will be using the KenPom current lines, which Vegas uses anyways. So if they move for you, good for you. But we'll be doing my records off what I pick on the KenPom line. So first game is Wednesday, a Big Ten matchup between Minnesota and Michigan. Now, Michigan, they might be a basketball school now because they're sure not a football school. Michigan is undefeated this year, but they are 5-point favorites at home versus Minnesota. But I'm actually going to take Minnesota, and this might be a little of a Homer Canadian pick, but Minnesota has a guy by the name of Marcus Carr. He's averaging 22.1 points per game. He's from Toronto. He had a 30-point game in a win against Iowa. The guy can go off at any time. He's a pure scorer, and I'm betting that he's going to do. Michigan, yeah, they're undefeated. They haven't had a lot of marquee wins. They beat a Northwestern team. So I'm going to take Minnesota +5. Now, moving to another Big Ten matchup, Indiana, Wisconsin. I already talked a little bit about the Badgers and their defense. They have the 5th adjusted defense according to KenPom and the 9th offense, and they're going up against an Indiana team who struggles to score the ball sometimes. Indiana does have some solid players, but they are the 56th ranked adjusted offense according to KenPom. So with the Badgers having a great defense, Indiana struggling to score at some points, I like the Badgers to cover 6 points, -6. Now moving to Saturday games, we got Clemson, North Carolina, and I still think Vegas is valuing the Blue Bloods, the North Carolinas, the Kentuckys too much. It's because Clemson, who has been by far the best ACC team this year, is a 1-point dog on the road in North Carolina. So I'm going to take the Clemson plus the 1 point to basically just win this game in North Carolina in the Dean Dome. Take the Tigers. And then lastly, Texas, West Virginia. We got Shaka Smart. I mentioned him earlier. We got him taking his talents to West Virginia to take on Bob Huggins. And right now, KenPom has a line at Texas only -1. So it's basically a pick 'em. Texas has been rolling. West Virginia has lost 2 of their last 4. They just lost one of their best players, Oscar Tshiebwe, for the season. He opted out because of personal reasons. They've been struggling a little bit. Texas is coming off their best game of the season. I like Texas on the road in West Virginia. Those are my picks. Hope they win you some money. I'm very excited to get this show going, and we will see you all next week. And always, until then, survive and advance.